Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. In today's tutorial we are going to do a mixed media mix and match. We're going to use a whole variety of supplies to make this beautiful mixed media piece. So I'm just going to start with this amaryllis and poinsettia napkin. And there's a lot of color here and I really am drawn to the color, but I only am interested in the poinsettia. So to help myself out, I'm just rough cutting out those corner 4 poinsettias. The rest of it, that napkin can be used as collage papers, but I won't be using it for this. Right away, once you cut it out, you can try it on the various substrates that you want to do. Now I want, again, just the poinsettia, so I want to remove some of this excess. And to do that, I'm using my fine liner brush and a little bit of water. And as you can see, I'm just pulling out this to isolate that main poinsettia. I'm loving the watercolory look of the poinsettias and the colors I'm really drawn to. In fact, I'm going to really play them up in this piece. So I'm just working my way around. I add a little bit of water and then I just pull off the excess piece that I don't want. And this is how you can isolate any part of the napkin that you want. And when you do this, it's much easier to play with on your substrate and figure out the composition. Now today, instead of an art journal page, I am using a 9x12 wood panel. And I'm prepping it by giving it a good coat and a half of gesso. I'm just brushing on the gesso, preparing the wood. Now a wood panel is great. The advantage over canvas is that it's more solid. It doesn't give, so stamping, stenciling is a little easier to do on the wood panel. So if it's something you haven't tried, give it a try. Now here's one composition. I've put the poinsettias in the corner, and here's the one that I used. Would you have done the other one, or do you like this one best? This one that I did today is one that typically I would have done the other one. So I wanted to try something different. Now I want to colorize the background, but I want to keep it fairly light. So I am using unbleached titanium and white gesso. And I'm just spreading that with the makeup sponge on top of the gessoed surface. Now if you don't want to do this on a wood panel, you can definitely do it on a canvas, or you could do it on an art journal page. Now when I mix it wet on wet, you get that mottled look. Now the other napkin here that I got, and both of these napkins are available at NINNYSNAPKINS.com. There is a link down below, so click on the more and you can find the link to Ninny's Napkins. It's called Praying Angel. So here's the part of that mix and match. I'm mixing 2 different napkins. And you can do that to build your focal image. I love the soft, peachy, corally color of the poinsettia, and I thought it went really well with this angel. And I'm a big fan of angels, so doing something or several things with that angel is definitely in the cards. So I'm gluing this down, all 3 of these pieces of napkin, by putting a coat of matte medium underneath and then matte medium on top. And it's really important to put the matte medium on top because we're going to do some overpainting. We're going to paint on top of the napkin, and you don't want the raw plain napkin because it'll take the paint or coloring very differently. You want to turn it into that non-porous surface. Now, I didn't need to glue the napkins onto copy paper for this use because the background was very light. It in no way impacted the color of the poinsettia or of the angel. I also didn't do any extra mark making before I glued them down. Once that's completely dry, I'm using this file to get rid of the excess napkin over the edges. Now I'm going to add some patterning and interest to the background. And here I'm stamping with black archival ink and this script stamp. Some of this is going to be knocked back by what comes next, but I wanted some script behind it. It's a small scale pattern. It's not like I want to read the script or anything. And I wanted some of it even over top of the napkin focals. This stencil is called Mermaid Tail. And I like I mixed up Naples yellow with quinacridone magenta or cadmium red or alizarin crimson. I have all those colors out, so I was just mixing colors just to get that same kind of corally look. And I like how it just kind of went well with the poinsettias. Now, you might say right now that it's really competing with the focal image, and I do knock this back. But I like this pattern. I want some pattern, I want some texture in the background, and I'm using some stencils. So we've used a couple napkins, the one stamp, and then we're going to use 3 stencils in start. This one's called Star Sparkle, and it's a good basic one because you can use stars on a lot of different art journal pages. And here I'm using the Naples yellow. Remember, I used the Naples yellow and mixed it with the alizarin crimson or the pinks to get that corally color, and now I'm using it straight up, and that's going to help it all work cohesively together because it's the same tone. I'm adding some stars to that background, and I always find when you have a little bit of yellow on a page or a project, it just makes things work. Now, if I had done the background, the whole over background, before I glued anything down, I would have had to have glued those focal images onto copy paper or used the iron decoupage sheets that I've created to glue on a back sheet so that whatever's in the background doesn't come through the napkin, especially on that white angel. So I'm just adding some stars here and there. Here I'm just selecting some of the bigger stars to fill in some of the empty spaces. And right about now, I'm really happy with how this piece is coming together. Originally, I was going to do this as an art journal page, and then last minute I thought, I have all these wood panels, I better use them. So the sides I've already prepped with gesso, and now I'm just colorizing them. And I'm using that alizarin crimson and mixing it with the Naples yellow to get that corally color. Now you can choose what color you want. You could paint it brown, you could paint it black, you can keep it the unbleached titanium color. So here I've started the process of overpainting, and I'm taking some gesso on the brush and then a mixture of the alizarin crimson, the cadmium red, Naples yellow, and quinacridone magenta. And I'm just kind of globbing it on, and I want to turn this napkin poinsettia into a poinsettia that looks painted on. A little more painterly, a little less like I've just glued something down. So I'm just going and adding this, I'm adding the white gesso, and in doing that I'm adding texture to the poinsettia as well. Now I don't show all of this in the tutorial. But you know, if you're not willing to overpaint or you don't have the confidence, and I highly encourage you to give it a try, you could leave it as it was. It was perfectly fine. This is just something that I really enjoy doing. So I'm mixing the colors. So some is more orange, some is more coral, some of it, the Naples yellow is shining through. Now the background, remember I said it was a little too bright. I'm using a wash of thinned white gesso and I'm just painting it over all that stenciling that I did just to knock that back, subdue it a little bit. I still want to see it peeking through. I just don't want it to be as forward as what I saw it being. And this is how you build those layers. And I am making sure that I'm drying. Now I'm overpainting the angel, and I paint the dress of the angel white, and then I mix a mixture of browns and yellows for the wings, and again, just overpainting it. Now you don't have to worry, because if it doesn't look exactly like what the napkin was, nobody's going to have that napkin to compare your finished product to. So if there is some variation there, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And now I'm going to do a little bit of shading. Here I'm using brown. I come back in, I do a little shading on the poinsettias as well. But I don't want to darken everything too much. I'm really liking the subdued pastel soft colorization that I've got going on here. So this wood panel, you can wire it so it can hang on a wall. It can be put on a plate rack, or it actually can sit because it's probably 2 inches deep. It can sit on a table as a design element, home decor item. Now the praying angel napkin actually comes in 2 sizes. This was the larger size, but there is a 5-inch size with a smaller angel. So if you get both, then you have lots and lots of options. Now I'm using the stylus and I'm putting some yellow and green dots for the center of the poinsettia. And this is, again, it's a little 3D, it's a little textural, and that just adds to your finished product. All these little details, you want people's eyes to go and look and say, oh, well, there's that, and oh, there's over here. And I am drawing as I'm going here. And I do dry between every layer, but that's not something I necessarily want to film. So now I'm adding a little bit of green into the background. There's the green for her halo there, and I wanted a little green around the poinsettias, and I'm just adding a little bit of green, and I'm using my Inktense blocks. So again, here I'm using acrylics and Inktense blocks. I'm using stencils, stamps, and napkins. you're going to mix and match, and that's the joy of mixed media. You're using all the different supplies. Now I grab the blending foam, reindeer blending foam, and I am edging with black. And here I think the piece really comes to life. That framing in black just makes everything pop. It just brought everything together and guided the next few steps. So this stencil's from the Crafter's Workshop, as are the other two, and there is a link in the description box to the Crafter's Workshop Shopify store. This is called Layered Holiday Words, and it's a good basic one if you do a lot of Christmas seasonal things. I love the size of it, and I am using that blending foam and black paint to stencil on Joy to the World. And it's always that moment of truth when you lift up the stencil to see how did you do. Because here I didn't want any leakage, so I was very happy. And then the black of that lettering goes so well with the black of that frames this piece. And just building up a little more black. Start with a little and build up. You can always add more, but it's very hard to take back. So now I'm using the Champagne Gold stencil butter from the Crafter's Workshop and that Star Sparkle stencil. Now I had knocked back those stars, but I wanted some bling. I wanted some texture, so I'm getting both with the Champagne Gold stencil butter, and I'm just going to stencil some 3D dimensional stars across the background. And I love how this works. You get that shine and shimmer and the texture. So I apply the stencil butter to the key card, and then I use the key card to put it through the stencil. That's just how I have the most success with stencil butters, with modeling paste. If you find more success with a palette knife, then use that. Never be afraid to do your own thing, what works for you. And I'm just working around, adding a little bit more sparkle and shine. And then on the sides, I've stenciled some of those stars in a couple different colors, gold, black. I put some script there, oh, not black, black script, alizarin crimson stars, as well as Naples yellow stars. Or gold, I think I used gold here. I just wanted to bring some of the elements that were in the front around the side. But again, if you prefer a plain one, go for that. And there's the finished piece. We've got close-ups of the finished piece coming up. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you want more tutorials where I'm doing mixed media pieces on canvas, on wood panels. But until next time, go get creative.